Have you ever walked into a room and felt the tension shift without saying a word? That moment when others look at you, not with welcome, but with unease. Not because you did anything wrong, but because your energy disturbed their illusion of control. That is silent power, the kind that doesn't shout, doesn't demand, doesn't even need to move much. It just is. And when you have it, people can feel it, especially those who want to see you small. In a world obsessed with noise, silence becomes a weapon. Everyone's trying to talk louder, prove harder, and react faster. But the ones who truly hold power don't compete in that chaos. They're the ones who walk through fire without flinching, not because they feel nothing, but because they've learned to master themselves. That mastery radiates something primal, something that others can't quite explain but instinctively fear. Your enemies aren't afraid of what you say. They're afraid of what they can't read, can't predict, can't break. People who thrive on conflict depend on your reactions. They poke, provoke, and pressure you into speaking, into defending, into explaining. But what happens when you stop playing their game? What happens when you stay calm, composed, and completely unaffected? That's when the tables turn. Because silence, when rooted in self-belief, becomes deafening. It forces the other person to sit in their own noise. And in that silence, they start to question themselves, not you. Imagine carrying that energy with you every day, the kind that doesn't have to speak to be heard. That quiet certainty, that grounded presence. It's not arrogance. It's not ego. It's simply knowing who you are so deeply that no one can shake it. That's power. And when enemies sense it, they don't challenge it. They avoid it. They shrink back because they realize your strength doesn't depend on their approval. It doesn't need to be validated. It just exists. You don't have to raise your voice to raise your value. You don't have to argue to prove your worth. You only need to understand this. The moment you stop explaining yourself is the moment others start taking you seriously. The moment you stop chasing validation is the moment they start questioning their control. You become unpredictable. And in a world where manipulators rely on your predictability, unpredictability is terrifying. Stay with this journey, because by the end, you'll no longer need to wonder how to gain respect. You'll no longer beg to be seen. You'll become the kind of person whose silence demands attention, whose calm energy creates discomfort in weak minds. The kind of person enemies fear not because of aggression, but because of unshakable inner strength. That power is already inside you. You just haven't learned how to use it yet. If you've ever felt underestimated, overlooked, or controlled, this is your moment. Your transformation doesn't require noise. It requires clarity. And every second you continue watching, you move one step closer to becoming someone no one dares to underestimate again. When you know exactly who you are, everything changes. You stop asking for permission. You stop seeking approval. And more importantly, you stop reacting to the noise around you. That kind of certainty isn't loud. It doesn't boast or threaten. It doesn't need to. It speaks through stillness, through your posture, through your presence. And the people who wish to control you feel it instantly, because they can no longer access the version of you that once needed their validation to feel worthy. The most dangerous thing you can ever possess is a solid self-image, not inflated ego, or not arrogance, but a quiet, internal knowing that no one can take away. When you hold that, you walk differently. You carry yourself with a calm defiance. You're not in a rush to prove anything. You don't need to. You've already made peace with who you are. And that terrifies anyone who once held power over your insecurities. They relied on your self-doubt to manipulate you. But now their influence disappears, and all that's left is their fear of your independence. When your self-image becomes unshakable, you no longer react to petty insults or shallow attacks. You no longer explain your choices to people who never had the courage to make their own. And when you stop engaging, they start unraveling. Because the only power they had was the power you gave them through your uncertainty. Take that away and suddenly they're exposed, weak, transparent, powerless. This is not about pretending to be strong. It's about becoming strong from within. It's about doing the quiet work, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, to shape a version of yourself that does not crumble when criticized, that does not panic when misunderstood, that does not shrink when others try to dim your light. You were never meant to fit into small boxes built by other people's fears. You were meant to stand tall in your own truth, even if it makes others uncomfortable. There's a kind of fear that only appears when someone realizes they can't control you anymore. That fear grows in the mind of your enemies when they see your confidence is not based on their acceptance, when they realize their words no longer echo inside your mind, when they see you smiling in silence, not because you're passive, but because you're untouchable. That smile is power, that silence is power, and they know it. You're not here to explain your existence. You're here to own it, to live it, to walk through life as if nothing outside of you can define you. Because once your identity becomes self-chosen, no one can use it against you. Stay on this path. Keep building yourself from the inside out. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs more people who understand the silent weight of true self-worth. People like you, becoming the kind of presence that speaks volumes without saying a single word. Control over your emotions is the final step between being reactive and becoming untouchable. When someone can trigger you, they control you. When they can make you angry, make you jealous, make you insecure with a single look or word, they own a part of you. That is the kind of power you must take back. Not through shouting, not through revenge, but through emotional discipline so strong, your silence becomes a wall they can't climb. They want you loud. They want you unstable. They want to see your anger, your hurt, your frustration, because that tells them they still matter. The moment you stop reacting, they start losing. You don't owe anyone your emotional availability. You don't have to engage just because someone provokes you. You have the right to be calm. You have the right to walk away. And most importantly, you have the right to protect your peace like it's your most valuable possession, because it is. Peace is not weakness. It's the sharpest weapon in the hands of someone who's been broken before and chose to rebuild with wisdom, not with vengeance. People fear those who stay calm when they expect chaos. It confuses them. It threatens their sense of control. There is a kind of energy that rises from emotional mastery, a quiet, grounded energy that doesn't flinch under pressure. When you have that, you don't need to raise your voice. You don't need to defend your reputation. You let people talk. You let them doubt. You let them assume. And while they waste energy trying to figure you out, you protect your focus, your path, your purpose. That's the kind of control they can't touch, because it doesn't live on the surface. It lives deep within you. Stillness in the middle of conflict is power. Detachment in the face of insult is strength. And when you train your mind to respond with clarity instead of emotion, you become the calm within the storm. Your presence alone starts to disarm others, not because you're intimidating in a loud way, but because they can't shake you. That's what unnerves people, not the noise you make, but the fact that you no longer break. Let them talk. Let them stare. Let them try. They don't realize you've already done the work. You've already faced your demons. You've already survived storms they couldn't imagine. And that's why you're quiet now. Because your silence is no longer fear. It's no longer doubt. It's mastery. Mastery of self. Mastery of emotion. Mastery of energy. And that mastery makes you the kind of person people don't want as an enemy. They won't understand it at first. They'll misread you, misjudge you, but they will feel it. The power in your silence, the control in your calm. And when they do, they'll realize one thing: nothing is more terrifying than someone who feels nothing from their insults and needs nothing from their approval. That person cannot be defeated. That person becomes a force. That person is you. There's a certain type of presence that doesn't need to be introduced. It speaks before you enter the room and lingers long after you leave. You don't need status. You don't need titles. You don't need to wear power. You need to be power. And that kind of energy is built in silence through how you stand, through how you walk, through how you carry yourself when no one is watching. Presence is not performance. It's the result of inner conviction. The world sees what you believe about yourself, and if you believe you are enough without explanation, they'll start to believe it too, even if it makes them uncomfortable. Your enemies don't fear your words. They fear your stillness, because they don't know what you're thinking. They don't know what you're planning. And most of all, they don't know how to shake you. That mystery becomes your advantage. When you stop over-explaining, over-justifying, over-sharing, people begin to lean in. They start to watch. And those who once dismissed you start to doubt their judgment, because now you show up with calm confidence, not with desperation, not with noise, but with certainty that cannot be faked. Power doesn't chase attention. It commands it without effort. Real presence is magnetic because it flows from alignment, not approval. You're not trying to be seen. You're simply not afraid of being seen. You stand still while others scramble. You move slow while others rush. You listen more than you speak. And in that discipline, you gain control. Control over how you influence a room. Control over how you're perceived. Not by manipulation, but by consistency. Confidence doesn't require volume. It requires self-trust. Posture is language. Eye contact is a message. Your pace, your tone, your gestures, all of it speaks. People read you long before they hear you. And when those signals match your inner strength, they create an atmosphere of quiet authority, the kind that can't be argued with, the kind that doesn't need to defend itself, because you're not seeking to be feared. You're simply not afraid of being misunderstood anymore. That freedom is rare, and rarity is always intimidating. You don't rise by forcing yourself into places. You rise by becoming someone who no longer doubts their place. That shift changes how you enter conversations, how you handle disrespect, how you deal with chaos. You stop reacting. You start responding. You stop begging. You start deciding. You don't need to dominate people. You need to own your energy so deeply that others feel it before they test you. When you understand that presence is earned in private and expressed in silence, you stop wasting energy trying to prove anything. You start showing up as someone who's already done the work. And the people who once tried to overpower you begin to feel smaller in your presence. Not because you said anything, but because your stillness says it all. When you stop needing approval, you become untouchable. The moment you let go of the urge to be understood, accepted, or praised, your enemies lose their grip on you. Their power was never real. It existed only in the part of you that wanted their validation. Once that dies, their control collapses. Detachment is not indifference. It is strength. It is choosing peace over proving, silence over struggle, presence over performance. When you master detachment, you stop being predictable. And that unpredictability makes people nervous because now they don't know how to affect you. They can't reach the part of you that once reacted to every slight, every look, every comment. That part no longer exists. There is a calm that comes when you stop needing to win every argument. When you no longer waste energy trying to convince people of your worth. You realize that not everyone deserves access to your attention. Not every fight deserves your involvement, and not every insult deserves a response. Detachment allows you to rise above, to see clearly, to walk away not out of weakness, but out of mastery. You own your emotions. You decide what enters your mind. And when you reclaim that power, people notice, especially the ones who thought they could manipulate it. Detachment is control over yourself. It is freedom from the noise. It doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care more about your peace than about winning battles that don't matter. You choose your energy wisely. You stop being baited. You stop being pulled into drama designed to keep you small. Your silence starts to feel louder than words. And the people who once had influence over you begin to feel powerless in your presence because you no longer react, you no longer explain, you no longer break. When someone tries to provoke you and you remain unmoved, they don't feel victorious. They feel exposed because what they counted on was your reaction. They needed your anger to feel relevant. They needed your defense to feel superior. When you give them nothing, they're left facing themselves. And that's what they fear the most. People who manipulate others often do so to avoid facing their own weakness. When you stop engaging, you force them to sit with their emptiness. You're not here to be liked by everyone. You're here to respect yourself so deeply that being misunderstood no longer shakes you. Detachment gives you that power. It allows you to lead with clarity, to walk with quiet confidence, and to remain unbothered in a world desperate for attention. Your presence becomes stronger, your focus becomes sharper, and your energy becomes sacred. You protect it by walking away from what no longer aligns. When you become someone who doesn't need attention to feel worthy, fear to feel powerful, or revenge to feel strong, you transcend what most people are trapped in. And in that stillness you rise. You rise above the games, the noise, the shallow attempts to pull you back. You become someone who is no longer moved, and that makes others move differently around you.